All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're looking at what is basically a masterclass in modern geopolitics, Egypt's two-front strategy. It's a really calculated response to a crisis that nearly brought an entire region to a standstill.
It all kicks off right here with this scene of total crisis. I mean, just imagine it. Missiles are literally raining down on some of Egypt's closest allies. And the Strait of Hormuz, we're talking about one of the most critical energy arteries on the planet, is about to be shut down. The stakes just could not have been higher. So, faced with this massive threat, what did Cairo do? They didn't just send out a strongly worded letter. No way. They launched this deliberate two-front strategy. It's this perfect, fascinating balance between military muscle and some seriously clever economic thinking. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down for you. First, we'll look at the crisis itself. Then, we'll dive into the military response. That's the Amun shield, and the incredible logistical lifeline they created. After that, we'll get into the doctrine, the why behind it all, and finally, see how it all fits into the great big Egyptian puzzle. So let's really set the scene. You've got Egypt's closest allies, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait. They are under direct attack. At the same time, global trade itself is hanging by a thread. Egypt absolutely had to act, and they had to act decisively. You see, the threat was really twofold. On one hand, you have a direct military problem, with missiles targeting key partners. On the other hand, you've got this huge economic threat that could choke off global supply chains. Cairo knew it had to tackle both at the same time. Okay, so let's dig into that first front of Egypt's response, the military shield. And it was all centered on this formidable air defense system they call the Amun shield, which pretty much translates to the guardian of the sky. So, what exactly is this Amun system? Well, it is so much more than just a set of launchers. According to intelligence reports, Egypt literally picked up these advanced systems from inside its own country and moved them to protect its allies in the Gulf. That's a huge statement, not just of capability, but of deep commitment. And this really shows you why this specific system was the one they chose. Yeah, its design might be from the 1980s, but it has been heavily modernized. We're talking about something that can handle multiple threats at once. It's particularly good against cruise missiles, and its digital systems can cut right through electronic jamming. So this wasn't just sending any old help, it was sending the perfect tool for that specific job. Now, deploying your own military hardware to another country, that's a huge step, and it immediately raises this really critical question, one that gets right to the heart of Egypt's whole strategy. Where exactly do they draw the line? Before we answer that, let's look at the second front, which is honestly just as ingenious. See, while that military shield was protecting the skies, Egypt was simultaneously creating an economic lifeline on the ground. This wasn't just about getting around a blockade, it was about making sure their allies stayed stable and secure, which makes the whole defensive strategy that much stronger. This is just brilliant. So the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, right? Egypt's solution was to effectively turn itself into a massive land bridge. Goods come in from Europe, they dock on the Mediterranean coast, get trucked across the country to the Red Sea, and then reshipped to Neom in Saudi Arabia. Neom then becomes the brand new distribution hub for the entire Gulf. Just an amazing logistical workaround. And the crucial thing here is that this wasn't just some idea on paper. Egypt threw its entire weight behind making it work. They offered these incredible customs exemptions and kept their ports running around the clock, 24/7, even on holidays, all to make sure that the flow of goods was never, ever interrupted. So we've seen the what, the air defense shield and the land bridge. But to really understand this strategy, we have to talk about the why. We need to look at the core foreign policy doctrine that's driving all of these decisions. This one sentence, you hear it all the time from Egyptian leaders, and it is everything. It's the fundamental principle. This is not just polite diplomatic language. This is the absolute cornerstone of their security doctrine. To them, the safety of their allies is completely inseparable from their own. But, and this is so important, that support is not a blank check. This chart lays out Egypt's calculated red lines perfectly. A firm yes to defensive systems and logistical help, but it's a hard no to things like permanent foreign bases or, and this is the big one, any kind of ground intervention in Iran. The goal is to help, but to avoid getting dragged into a much bigger, much more destabilizing regional war. So, instead of trying to be the lone hero, Egypt's preferred path is to build coalitions, to share the responsibility. In fact, some sources suggest they'd only consider a more permanent presence if it were part of a formal, powerful alliance with other regional heavyweights like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan, where the security burden is shared among everyone. Okay,
Now let's take that final step back and zoom all the way out. Because this crisis in the Gulf, as huge as it is just one single piece of an incredibly complex puzzle that Egypt is managing every single day.
And it is so crucial to get that this Gulf strategy isn't happening in a vacuum. At the exact same time, Egypt is dealing with tensions on its Sinai border, a super high-stakes water dispute with Ethiopia, constant threats to shipping in the Red Sea, and this delicate economic dance with global powers like China. Any one of those is a major challenge. Managing all of them at once, that is a massive balancing act.
And all of this leads us to one final powerful question. What we've just broken down here is this unique blend of hard power and smart power. So you have to ask, is this Egyptian model, this fusion of calculated military support and creative logistical solutions, is this the new template for how security will be managed and how power will be projected across the Middle East?